Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Little, one of the filmmakers of More Than a Word.
Yeah, it's hi Justin's class. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of all you guys. Um, I think our film, as far as kind of challenging Western views, I think it's completely challenging that because I think mascots kind of limit how people are seen, and so I would say almost everybody in our film is actually indigenous. We're both indigenous. We have two people, I guess, that are in the film that are not indigenous, and so I think it's a majority of the viewpoints coming from that film are actually going to be indigenous. So you're hearing that type of methodology, that type of perspective, and that type of lens, and so I think that really changes how we look at things because so many times our voices are silenced and no one really listens to us. So I want to talk about mascots and other things and say that has nothing to do with me because they just kind of want to ignore the indigenous voices. And so I think it's powerful to use as many people like that as we could in our film, and I think it's powerful to do that in any film and tell those stories that we've heard growing up, I think, too. So
No, I think, watching a film, I think keeping that conversation going, igniting that conversation and debate and keeping it going, I think is important. You can watch the film, but then you want the impact to continue, and just open that discussion up. And so I think it's important to have those additional teaching materials and stuff like that to supplement the film, that you can just keep that going and really take that dialogue and kind of spread it even further than the film. So
right, and I think in our film is in particular it's on mascots, but it's focusing on Washington. And so I think Washington football team can kind of serve as a microcosm for a lot of appropriation throughout the nation. So I'm hoping that anybody watching this film can kind of tie this to their own communities. So you have the SCSU Aztecs, you have all sorts of other mascots that are out there, and all of these places have communities where their communities have to battle those kind of ongoing, I think. And so I think hopefully it's on the Washington football team, but hopefully people can take that back to their own communities and use that. And another thing with the syllabus is we're also hoping to highlight indigenous voices, because I think some of the scholarship out there that's coming out really recently is indigenous voices and indigenous people, indigenous academics, and so I think that's really, really, really powerful, because those people are actually dealing with these on the front lines for a lot of these issues. And when you have those people and hear those perspectives, you can hear every excuse we've ever heard, they've probably already heard, and so they're able to kind of counter some of those arguments really, really easily.
How do you see your film work engaging social transformation?
yeah, I don't know. I think I have a degree in graphic design, so I don't have as much of an academic background. So I think from that perspective, I think that film, has a little bit broader of a range, because I think there's a lot of great books out there. There's a lot of great papers that have been written, but not everybody is accessing that stuff. Those you got to go in the libraries. You got to be part of that school system. So I think with film, it's readily accessible to anyone, and I think that was one of the things when we tried to make this film a little bit more accessible, where it's not as academic. It's got a little bit of substance, a little bit of style to it, just to kind of reach a broader audience. So I think that is one of the ways that I think that film really has that impact for social change, and just doing a lot of stuff with film in general. So
And I do hope that our film kind of leads to the eventual changing in the name. But I also think someone asked me if they changed the name, would you be happy? And of course I'd be happy. That'd be really great. But also there's still other battles that this can easily switch to, and I think so. You have to be aware of those, and you have to be constantly challenging how natives are portrayed. And so I think I hope that it does lead to social transformation, but I also think that this is an ongoing thing that I hope that it wakes a lot of people up to think about it, and not just Native people, but I also hope it wakes up people of color in general, because we need to support each other on all levels. And I think it's easy for them, I don't blame other people of color for sometimes like not being able to recognize this as an issue, but I think that if we can educate some other people and get more allies, then I think issues like this can easily be dealt with. But
Well, I think on that, with working with teaching tools or syllabus, I think that, like, eventually we want the name to be changed. But I think, you have to understand there's still the opposition out there that doesn't want it changed. So I think one of the things that we need to prepare for as well is the reaction that, you've seen some of these high schools where students have walked out and there's been, some violence in cases, small cases where they've changed the name or they get close to changing the name. So I think it's important to really kind of prepare for that reaction and, come up with a positive counter to that reaction, I guess, so that, I think both sides can at least come to some resolution, eventually. But
Well, why do you think it's important that stories are told from, Native stories are told from Native people? Why is that important?
So I think I'm in history, and so I think being in history, we have there's so many non-Native historians out there, and I think that's all right. If you're non-Native and you want to do history, or you want to do American studies, or write about Indigenous people, that's fine. That's okay to do, but we have so many few PhDs or so many people out there doing academic books or any type of books that I think it's important for Indigenous people to really express their point of views, because those are often overlooked, or if they are told from a non-Native point of view, sometimes they're incorrect or they're not told through. And so using an Indigenous perspective or Indigenous voice, if you think about all that comes with that is perspective, from growing up on a reservation or anything like that, or maybe knowing cultural values or language, and all those things are going to change like how your way of thinking is. And if you're not Native, you can kind of get some of that to a point, but you can never really be able to write that perspective. And so sometimes it has to come from an Indigenous voice, and I think that's really powerful. And I think that's hopefully what our film eventually will show.
Well, I think there's aspects to the, like with the mascot issue, I think it's been covered a lot on the news, but I think sometimes you can miss certain aspects of it. Like in our film, we connect it to Standing Rock as an example of bad policies that, our lawmakers grow up with these stereotypes and make laws and policies that aren't necessarily good for Native people. And I think a non-Native probably wouldn't have made that connection with Standing Rock. That's something that they would have viewed as something entirely separate. And all of these issues are kind of interweaved together. So I think that's one of the reasons I think it's important to have that Native perspective, is because there's certain aspects I think you can miss if you're not connected to the issue yourself, or grew up around the issue yourself. So I think that's why it's important to have those. You tell the story from your own perspective, your own voice. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Can you two talk a little bit about like representation and misrepresentation, particularly when it comes to Native folks on, in media, but then also just when you're talking about worldviews and thinking about worldviews, there's a lot of misrepresentations and misunderstandings in that sense as well. And obviously your film works on challenging that.
Yeah, it's misrepresentation. Do you want to answer that first, or you want? I'm trying to think of a second. Okay, so I think one of the easiest examples of it, and just to go off the Standing Rock example of what Ken just said. When I was growing up, I was actually a huge Fighting Sioux fan. I wanted to play hockey for them. I was obsessed with the Fighting Sioux. And
who are the Fighting Sioux?
The Fighting Sioux, the University of North Dakota. The names changed, but they were the University of North Dakota Fighting Sioux, and that was just a team that I loved hockey. And looking back now, I'm able to like analyze why I was okay with that. There's not a lot of Native imagery in popular culture, popular media. It's all stereotyped. And then for me to see my actual tribe, even though I don't